Okay, when we were last chatting, you were telling me how you got into the Navy. You were talking about your older brother and how he originally wanted to be in the Air Force. Can you continue telling how you got into the Navy?
Yeah, yeah, I'll pick up from there. Yeah, like I said earlier, when I finished high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I had to do something. I was working on a farm, and after school, I would work after school, and I was getting paid 50 cents for about 3 hours worth of work after school, and it was a chicken farm, and my job was to feed the chickens, get up the eggs, clean the eggs, wash them. Had a machine for washing eggs.
Hmm.
I was to weigh the eggs, crate them, and get them ready for the owner to take to the market. And I said to myself, I can't be doing this the rest of my life. I had to do something better than this. And during the summer, I partic- I ran the farm because he
Hmm.
didn't have any other workers. I was the only worker, and I did everything on that farm: the planting, the harvesting, and the whole 9 yards. And there again, I would work all day for $1.50. Well, as I said, I just told myself that I had to do something other than that. So I
Hmm.
decided I'd join the Navy. Uh, I wasn't going to college. I was, to be honest with you, I was scared because they had talked about the college entrance exam.
Hmm.
I guess today they call it the SATs and the what's the other one?
ACT.
ACT. Well, to me, I was just afraid of taking the test. I just didn't want to take a test. So I said, well, let me join the Navy because my older brother was in. Well, I joined the Navy and went to the recruiting office there in Richmond, Virginia. Got signed up, and from there they put uh, they put me and another group of recruits. That's what we were called at that time. We were recruits. They put us on a train, and they had one of the recruits in charge of all of us. And wherever we went, where one went, everybody went. So we took this train from Richmond to Great Lakes, Illinois, for our initial uh, recruit training. And to me, I had never been away from home, to my knowledge, except I guess I had gone down to Virginia State College, which now Norfolk State, not Norfolk State, the one that's in Petersburg, where I'd gone down there on a little trip, 4-H club trip, uh, conference right after high school, and well, we went to Great Lakes for training, and I was out there for 12 weeks of recruit training,
Hmm.
and during that 12 weeks, the Navy would give you a battery of tests, all kinds of tests, in addition to your training. And based on the scores and things that you receive from those tests, that's what the Navy determined what job you were going to do. Well, which was a little bit different. Uh, the Navy had worked its way a little bit away from the segregation part, because where 4 years ago, where my brother, when he joined the Navy, there was only one job that he could do,
Hmm.
and that was to be a cook for the officers. And And in the military service, you have what is called officers and then enlisted people. And the officers are what you could call senior management, and enlisted are the worker bees.
Right.
Even though you have some of the senior enlisted in leadership, but they aren't considered in management, they're considered in leadership. And above that, you have the officer corps. And well, we took this battery of tests, and my brother told me, he says, Lawrence, they're going to give you a lot of tests when you join the Navy.
Hmm.
He says, tell them you want to be a storekeeper. So I said to him, I said, what is a storekeeper? He said, you don't need to know. That's what he told me. So you don't need to know. You just tell them you want to be a storekeeper. Okay. So we took all these tests, and then it came down the time where they were going to review the results. They will call you in, sit down with you one on one, and give you three choices of, of particular jobs that you could do. Well, the three jobs that they gave offered me was, one was what we call in the Navy a hospital corpsman. Uh, in civilian life today, it would be a medical assistant,
Hmm.
and the other one was uh, a radio man, which is communications. Okay, and and the third one was a yeoman. That's like being a secretary. Okay, those are three choices that they gave me, and they asked me which one do I want. I said I want to be a storekeeper, and they said, but storekeeper is not one of the choices. Which one of the three do you want? I said I want to be a storekeeper.
You were insistent. You
I
like,
was persistent, and after the third time telling them I wanted to be a storekeeper, they threw me out of the office. They said, you get out of here. So I was thrown out of the office, and we went back to our training. And I guess about around the 10th or 11th week, you start getting assignments, what we call orders. They're telling you where the Navy is going to send you for more advanced training based on the particular job they've classified you for. Well, I never got an assignment. Okay, so I went to what we call a company commander.
mm-hmm.
I went to see him, and I said, "Hey, I don't have an assignment." I said, "What's going to happen to me in 2 weeks when our training is up?" He said, "Well, I don't know. They'll probably put you in what is called a holding company, okay,
Hmm.
where they would keep all of the people there that had finished training, didn't have a job, and they were waiting for something, maybe medical reasons, the school wasn't ready to start or whatever. Uh, they didn't have an assignment for me. So I went there and went to the holding company, was in that company for about uh, maybe a good month and a half. And all during that time, well, now I finished my basic training, so I was a little bit senior to the new people coming in, the new recruits coming in. So I would be put in charge of a detail of new recruits, and I would take them out and they would give us a little assignment of what we had to do. Maybe it was raking leaves or cutting grass, but back then at that time this was in October and November and Great Lakes. By that time, it was time to rake leaves. So I had to supervise these guys raking leaves, and they one day decided they were going to play a trick on me. Well, we're raking these leaves, and we rake these leaves, you get worms and all other kind of stuff under those leaves.
Oh
And I
yeah.
told them, I said, look, you guys are here to rake leaves. Don't put any leaves on me. so, so one smart guy, he decided he was going to throw some of those leaves on me. But needless to say, we got in a little fist fight, but nobody got in trouble over it. But I got the message across that, hey, you didn't mess with me about leaves. But the final thing to get back to the story is during that time that I was waiting, and I was so persistent about wanting to be a storekeeper, there was somebody behind the scenes doing some work to get me into that storekeeper school in
Mm.
Newport, Rhode Island. And I didn't know this. And finally, I got my assignment papers, my orders, as we call them, that that was going to come home on leave for 15 days, a little vacation. I come home, and from there, I would go up to Newport, Rhode Island, and wait for my school to start. So I started my career field as a storekeeper, and uh, and some people may wonder, well, what is a storekeeper?
Mm-hmm. I want to know.
A storekeeper is sort of like uh, aboard ship and aboard land. You uh, have repair parts to fix equipment. Say a piece of equipment break or something. Well, all of these parts and things, you got them stored aboard the ship in different little storerooms.
Mm-hmm.
And my job was the storekeeper's job is to keep track of that, to make sure that you've got the right parts on the ship ready for in case something break, you've got it there. Okay. And ordering and receiving those parts and keeping inventory of them and so forth. So basically, that was my job uh, in the Navy. And, and I went from there, uh, from being a storekeeper, working as a storekeeper, worked my way up as enlisted. And after about, oh gosh, it must have been about 16 or 17 years, I applied to become an officer, uh,
Mm-hmm.
what they call a warrant officer. That's one stage, that's step between enlisted. You have a warrant officer, and then you have commission officers. So, and I got selected to be a warrant officer. All of this whole time, now, at that point, when I made warrant officer, I'm looking back at my early days as a storekeeper when they were telling me that I couldn't be a storekeeper because it wasn't something that I tested high enough to get. Okay. But being persistent, I got it. And that's the way I see life. You've got to be persistent in what you want to do. You got to have a goal and you got to say, I want this, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this and do it the right way. But if you just sit back and say, well, they won't let me do this, they won't let me do that, I can't do this, or I can't do that, you'll never be able to do anything. You've got to be persistent. You've got to set some goals, and you got to say, I'm going to do it. Because I mentioned that early on. Yeah, you got to know what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's right. Now, with all of that, because you still told the story of how you were persistent and being a storekeeper and becoming an officer, when you were able to retire from the Navy, how did that feel? Like what I mean, did you know you were ready to retire? What was all of that surrounding that the completion of that particular chapter?
Well, when I closed my Navy career chapter, which was 30 years of active duty in the Navy,
Mm-hmm.
I was ready. I was ready to retire. Basically, I was tired of moving my family. But my wife, Rose, she still wanted to travel. And she was a little disappointed that I was retiring. But the Navy has this rule at a certain grade and a certain time, it's almost by law, you have to retire.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at that grade. I had made lieutenant commander, which was compared to other branches of service, you would say a major, and I had was coming up on 30 years, so it was time for me to go. So I was ready to go, and there again, I had gotten to the point where I didn't know what I wanted to do after the 30 years, because all through the Navy, I had always said, well, I was going to stay in for 20 years, retire, and never have to pick up a stick. It wouldn't pick up a stick to hit a snake,
Mm-hmm.
So, but I did 30. I did 30 years. And at the end of the 30, I was ready to go. But there again, I didn't know what I wanted to do then. And I said, well, 30 years are here. I've got to do something because this little retirement, I can't live on this little retirement. I got a family to feed and a house,
Mm-hmm.
to pay for a house. So I I then went into a field similar to what I was doing when I was in the Navy. Could use some of my Navy experience in doing that. Was managing a warehouse for a commissary out at Andrews Base in Maryland, Suitland, Maryland, and I had that job. Did that for about 6 months, and then one day someone came along and say, "There's a job opening at this company in Alexandria in Arlington, Virginia. Do you want to apply for the job?" Well, yeah, I said, okay. I applied for the job. I applied for the job and I got it. And still working in a field that was related to what I had done in the Navy. We call it logistics. And I was working on a program, and just to tell you a little bit about what I was doing on that job. Uh, you probably familiar with the Iranian crisis,
Mm-hmm.
and when the
Yeah.
Shah uh, eh, got pulled out of Iran, and the United States accepted him here in the United States, uh, the Iranians took over the embassy in Iran, and not Iran, but in Tehran, and it held all the workers there hostage. And at the same time, the president uh, said that because they were buying a lot of materials and aircraft parts and things from the United States,
Right.
and we had a lot of their money and a lot of their parts, so we held that as hostage. That money and their aircraft parts and their aircraft. And my job at that time was working to help sort that out to see
Get off of me.
to see
Stop.
what.
No.
Hold it a minute.
Yeah, so you were talking about your position there and what you were tasked to do.
Yes, as I said, I was working on that Iranian program, and I worked that job for about 10 years, uh, trying to prove and to Iran what they had gotten and what they hadn't gotten, and make them pay for what they had received because
Mm.
he had their money. And you may remember here when President Obama made a deal with Iran on the nuclear program, and they gave them some money for that for them agreeing to be a part of that nuclear program. All right. Well, that money that President Obama gave them was their own money. And a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people think that the United States gave Iran money. Well, they gave them their
Mm.
own money because we had held their money hostage. They had held
Oh,
our people hostage in the embassy.
right, right.
Yeah. So it was their money. But a lot of people think, well, you gave the taxpayers money to
I'm
Iran.
like, well, no, it wasn't. This was not.
Uh,
You're saying no, it wasn't the taxpayers' money.
no, it was not the taxpayers' money. It was Iran's money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we had it in a special account. You know, and it was a lot of it. It wasn't chicken feed. It was a lot of money. Yeah,
I can imagine.
yeah. And then from there, after that, I decided I wanted to get into the real estate industry,
Mm-hmm.
and because I like helping people, and I worked that after the 10 years there working with that civilian job. I worked as a realtor, selling and helping people buy and sell homes. I did that for about 22 years. And finally, in 2019, I decided to retire from that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm officially retired, retired, retired.
Retire, retire. Say that 3 times.
Three
It's like
times,
I done
retired,
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 retired.
retired until I tired again.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, as I say, when you have so many gifts or opportunities to use your gifts, why not? Why not continue to help people? Much like you said with the what led you into real estate, you wanted to help others. I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't see nothing wrong with that. Well, with all of these career moves that you made, what would you say is a big lesson that you've learned in life? And it could be on the job, it could be from family, it could be just from all of your travels with the Navy, it could be anything, a lesson.
Well, I would say the biggest thing that I've learned is you don't always know what you want to do,
Hmm.
and and for some people it takes longer than for others to figure out what that something you want to do is. But once you figure out what that something is, you got to get out there and do it, and and put your foot to the metal and
Mm-hmm.
push ahead, because everything is not going to come easy, and, and there are going to be times when you're going to have to fight to get what you want. You're going to have to stand up to people and say, no, this is what I want,
Mm-hmm.
and this is what I'm willing to do to get it. And as long as if you just accept people saying, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, well, you won't do that. You've got to have the desire to do it, because you're not always going to, as I said, you're not always going to know what it is you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But once you figure out what it is you want to do, you got to get out there and do it.
What happens if you don't do it? I have to ask that question. I mean, I'm just asking from it. Then you may have a story from experience of something you were like, I knew I was supposed to do that, but I just ain't put my pedal to the metal and I knew I was wrong.
Well, well, yeah. If you don't, if you don't do it, then you've got to be willing to accept what comes along with not doing it.
Hmm.
I had a goal one time that when I got out of the Navy and when John A. got out of the Navy, we were going to buy a truck and we were going to become truck drivers. We would take turns. We'd ride together. I'd drive for 8 hours or whatever, and he'd drive for 8 hours. We'd buy this truck. And that's something that never materialized, but it was a goal that I had. And as I got to doing other things, that goal sort of took the back seat.
Yeah.
But I don't regret not having done it because I think it would have been a good thing to do. But there again, it would not have led me to be able to help people the way that I like to help people. I
True.
would not have been able to help people buy homes, help people sell homes. You know, that 22 years that I did that, that piece would have been gone. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like helping people. But that would have been gone. But
Right. I see what you're saying because sometimes not reaching the goal is necessary because it takes you on another track, the track and the path where you need it to go.
mm-hmm,
And is
mm-hmm.
it so is it can be good, but if to me, if you make it a habit of never doing anything you want to do or never attaining your goal, that's where the problem is. Because
That's what the problem is. Yeah. Yeah. You gotta and it may take, 5, 6 times, maybe more, to figure
Mhm.
out what that is you want to do. But once you find out what it is, you just got to push ahead with it and make it happen.
Oh yeah, you got to. You got to. You got I mean, I can say we wouldn't be here today if we didn't make decisions or even, our parents or grandparents or
Mm-hmm.
going back even farther than that. We of course stand on their shoulders. I'm gonna tag along with that last question and ask you this. How would you describe your proudest moment? Like a moment in your life where you're just like, I'm proud of that. That was a good move. What was that? What I that okay.
I, I, I would say, and I sort of spoke about this earlier, and I didn't have it in the frame of being a proudest moment, but I would say that when I became a warrant officer, that was a proud moment because I looked back and I said, I remember the day when the people were telling me that I couldn't do something.
Yeah.
Okay. And now I have worked my way up to being in charge of what they said I couldn't do.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was a
Ain't
proud
that
moment.
something?
Yeah, that was a proud moment. Yes.
This is totally amazing how it came full circle. Y'all told me I can do this, and now I'm in charge. I'm leading the project, which you said
Mhm.
I couldn't even.
Yeah, and they
I
were saying
couldn't even
that I did my scores weren't high enough to be a storekeeper, but now I was in a position where, as a warrant officer, I was leading these storekeepers, in charge of them. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. That's quite fascinating to me. What is it you feel like is in you or was instilled in you to make you want to, we already talked about your persistence and being that storekeeper. What what was instilled in you to say, hey, if I make this decision, I'm going to do it? Did you always have this knowing, or did it come through experience, trial and error?
Well, I guess the thing that really I learned as at an early age was if you say you're going to do something, do it.
Mm-hmm.
And because your word is the only thing that you got. So I was telling myself that I was going to do this. So if I couldn't satisfy myself that I was going to do it, there's no way in the world I can satisfy anybody else that I could do it. So that was the driving point of my word, the word that I had that I wanted to do something and I could do it because I always told myself I could do anything. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So self motivation, self discipline, all of this stuff, coming from within and not just being so focused on what everybody else was telling you to do. Because if you couldn't meet your own goals, or be truthful to yourself, or be honest with yourself, how can you do that for somebody else? You can't. You
And,
can't
and
do
the
it.
other thing was, yeah, I always told myself that if anybody else could do it, I could do it. And I
Hmm.
remember the days when I was going through my training after becoming a warrant officer, because you had to go to school again, was that we were having classes and taking regular exams every Friday. And here I was the number one person in my class. Okay.
Mm,
I was scoring higher than anybody else in my class. But
isn't that something?
and I look back, and I was still looking back at that day when people were telling me that I couldn't be a storekeeper because storekeeper didn't come up on that list of things that they say I could do. Okay. But here I am now at that point where I'm gonna be in charge of these storekeepers, and we're going through school, and I'm in class with people that had gone through the Naval Academy, you know, 4 years of college and so forth. And I'm scoring higher than these people,
Hmm.
you know? So that's telling me that, hey, I can do anything I want to do.
Yeah,
Nothing. The sky is the limit. I just got to want to do it.
yeah,
You know?
you're
So
right.
I could have looked at it from a point of view of saying, hey, I'm just a little high school graduate,
Right, right.
and I'm in class with people from college, people that have gone to the U.S. Naval Academy, and they don't just take anybody in the U.S. Naval Academy, okay? And I'm scoring higher on these exams than they are, and I'm learning the material at the same time they're learning it.
Hmm.
But at the same token, you know, it's that thing. I'm looking back again. They're telling you that you couldn't do it. That wasn't on the list. That wasn't one of the things that they say you could do. So that's and I always remember that. And I try to instill that in young people today that don't let someone else tell you what your destiny is. You got to get out there and do it. Because people will always tell you, you can't do that. You didn't go to the right school. You didn't do this, or you didn't do that. But if you want to do it, you put your mind to it, you can do it.
That sounds like a song right there. If you want to do it, put your mind to it, and you can
And you
do
can do
it.
it. There you
I
go.
mean, it's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tell me about, because you were telling me about some, because I want to reel it back. We're going to go back a few years, maybe more than a few years. You were telling me this thing about these sweet potatoes. What's this thing about these sweet potatoes in the hole and how you keep them? And tell me all about this.
Yeah, right. We'll go back to that. Back when I was growing up, refrigeration and keeping food fresh
Mm-hmm.
and still good to eat, it wasn't they weren't using preservatives like they use on things today. You know, you buy a loaf of bread and they put preservatives in it and they keep it fresh from Monday to Monday of the next week. The bread is still fresh every time you open the loaf. It's like being fresh because of the preservatives in it. Well, the preservatives that we had, like we would raise all of our vegetables and fruits and so forth, and especially with the sweet potatoes we would raise, uh, white potatoes also. We had in the woods, I call it in the woods, there was a hole in the ground, a big pit
Right.
in the ground, and we'd fill that pit with twigs or the leaves from a pine tree that would become the base of it on the ground floor. And then you put your potatoes in there, and then you would cover it up with more leaves. And that would preserve those potatoes just like they would, and they look like they just came out of the ground all through the winter.
Hmm.
So in the wintertime, when you want a sweet potato, you go out there and rake a few leaves back, get the sweet potato out of there, and cover them back up, and you had your sweet potatoes. But that was a form of, of preserving without uh, uh, chemicals to
True,
preserve.
true. Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it. I wonder how many people do that to this day. You know, the
I
same
seriously doubt if
procedure.
they do. And like like your meats and so forth, you would uh, you would smoke the meats. Like my grandmother had a smokehouse, and you know every fall of the year we would kill a hog, and we would say you you eat everything from the hog except except the squeal. Okay.
So all parts of this hog
All
is about to
parts of the
be
hog was good to eat except the squeal. You eat the squeal. But you ate the guts and you ate the feet and everything. And then
How
they would,
was that? Now tell me, how was the pig? Did you enjoy it? I
oh
mean,
yeah, oh yeah. That was
I'm just curious.
around Thanksgiving time when we would kill the hog. And you go out there and you get the hog and you kill him, cut his throat, let him bleed. You had a big barrel of a 55-gallon drum of hot water and you build a fire around it. And you put that hog, you slide him down in there head first, okay? And then you pull him out, slide the tail in there. And then you lay him out on the ground and you scrape the hair. That hair would just come right out off of the skin after you'd gone in that hot water. And then you would gut him, what we call gut him. You cut him down the center and pull his guts out, and then you had to clean the chitlins. And now, as the old saying goes, chitlins are good eatings. I haven't had any for a long time, but they were really hard to clean because those were the intestines. You need a lot of water to keep flushing them out.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And imagine what a pig eats. You actually saw, I've never, I've only seen a hog pig just from the exterior. I've never seen the interior of a pig. So you saw it. So you
Oh yeah,
knew what they ate. You were up close and personal watching.
that's right. Yeah, man. I mean, you were feeding this pig from a little piglet, what you call them, a piglet, a baby pig,
Mhm.
and you'd see him grow all during the summertime, and then in the fall of the year, you'd uh you'd kill him. It's just like those chickens. I'll tell you about the chickens. My mother would order about 50 baby chicks, and call them baby chicks, and they'd come in the mail, and she'd put them upstairs because the upper part of our house, the attic, the upper room, at that time, you guys lived in the house. That part wasn't finished at that time.
True. Yeah.
So we just put that box of baby chicks up there and give them a little food, and the heat from downstairs would go up and it keep them warm, and they would grow till the spring of the year. And they got to the spring of the year, you turn them out, and you would get some to eat on Sunday, as I said, have fried chicken and chicken do chicken during the week, and then you get some that you would keep to lay eggs. So you had your chicken, and you have your fresh chicken and your fresh eggs. Uh, and one thing about chickens, in the spring of the year, wild onions would grow. Okay, I don't know if you ever seen a wild onion, and the chickens would eat these wild onions, and then when you eat the egg, you could taste the onion in the egg.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So so in the springtime, you didn't want to eat eggs from chicken in the springtime, but
Because you have onion eggs.
you have onion eggs. That's right.
Like
Yeah.
this is what is going on here? I ain't want no onions with my egg.
I didn't want onions. You get onions and eggs. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, so many. I think this is going back, to our discussion previously about community, knowing where your food came from, you had a greater sense of I actually want to eat this or I don't want to eat this because I know the onions, the chicken's been eaten.
Yeah.
You knew the story. There was no, oh,
That's right.
I gotta go to Sam's Club or I gotta go to Harris Teeter and pick up this. You didn't know where it came from.
Yeah.
You
And
did.
in the spring of the year, we all had a job.
Mm-hmm.
We would plant the garden. My father would, because he worked on a farm, he would bring the tractor home with the plow and all of that stuff. He'd plow up the land. And then after dinner during the week, we all go out there and plant the vegetables. And we knew how to plant. I mean, so many feet apart with butter beans. And
Yeah.
if you're planting butter beans or you're planting string beans, you so many dry beans would go in that little hole to make sure you had enough. Like you put 3 or 4 dry beans in there, that would make sure out of that 4, you can get one, at least one, to come up to be a bush. Then you plant tomatoes, and then once you planted the tomatoes and they start to grow, you had a thing what we call, you had to stick the tomatoes. You put a stick around them and you tie them, because when they start bearing tomatoes, tomatoes start growing on them, they would fall down. So you had to tie the tomato stem to the stick to keep the tomato from pulling it over.
Gotcha.
But we'd plant everything: tomatoes, green peas, lettuce, and it's nothing better. And one of the fondest memories I have of all the vegetables that we grew, the one that I liked most was green peas,
Hmm.
because the green peas that you got right out of the field, they have a different taste than the green peas you buy today. Even if even if you buy frozen green peas, they're not the same,
Hmm.
because they process them and put all these chemicals in them to
True.
preserve.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
though they still freeze them, they still got preservatives in them. But just knowing that you could get all of your vegetables that you needed. Everything. You planted everything. Got everything you needed and had enough that you would eat during the summer. You would can during the summer, would make it through the winter. Next spring, start the cycle all over again. Yeah.
Did because this was something I just learned recently. Did your fascination with planning start with that project you did in high school, or were you always fascinated with watching stuff grow and knowing where your food came from and all, just because of where you grew up and who, who your parents were? Or was that, I'm just listening here and I'm like, well, did one come before the other? What?
Well, yeah, I think the fascination came with the fact that we were tasked, as I was saying, after we have that meal, our supper during the summertime, because there's a lot of daylight after supper, we'd go out there and plant that garden. And
Hmm.
then you'd get to see how that seed would grow into a plant. And that's why I got fascinated with I wanted to I wanted peaches, and I wanted apples, and I wanted cherries.
Yeah.
So I ordered all of that stuff through a catalog. And as I say again, it came in the mail. It wasn't no Amazon truck pull up the door.
Everything came in the mail.
It came in the US mail. And the trees came in the US mail, and I went out there and planted them out there. And it was my back then they have what was called 4-H club. I don't know if they still have that today, but that was my 4-H club project.
Okay.
That little orchard that I planted out there. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm. I like it. I like, because these days what I'm seeing, and well, this has been happening all throughout the years, but I'm noticing that more people are starting their own gardens and stuff, no matter
yeah,
where they live. If they live in a house, they live in an apartment, a lot more people have been planning, and particularly this past year, I've seen that planting
yeah.
their own food.
Well, I think it just it's better for you. And we look back and say, well, Aunt so and so and aunt and uncle, and they lived to be 90 into their 90s and their
Mm,
hundreds, and but they weren't eating the preservatives that we're eating today. So, they were
exactly.
eating that fresh stuff right out of the field, and it gave them it was more healthy for them, healthier for them.
Mm-hmm. 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 I want to go back to something, kind of talking about the Pemberton family and the reunion. What has something you have learned by being the organizer, facilitator of this reunion over the year that has surprised you?
I, what has surprised me is how hungry people are to learn about the family.
Mm,
That I see a hunger there, and and that's why I think we get pretty good participation at the reunions because people want to get to be family because we're so pulled apart by everything else, and the family thing is a thing that we can hold on to, you know. But we have to keep doing it. We have to keep coming together because if we don't keep coming together, we're gonna lose family. We
yeah.
won't be no family. We'd be just out there like nomads. Yeah. But that's the thing that surprised me. I see the hunger. I see the hunger there for people wanting to be family. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. And the hunger to me keeps things going, and keeps it inventive, just like This year, as an example, we have to do it virtually. We could have easily said,
Yeah,
oh, no family reunion this year because we can't get together, can't come to Philly, or we can't go to New Kent, or we can't go
yeah.
to wherever, do New Jersey. So let's call it off. But it's still on. Well, I have one final question. Based on everything that you shared and all of your life lessons and, you know, your family and your history in the Navy, how do you want to be remembered? You know, you want people to say, oh yeah, that guy, I remember him, Lawrence Pemberton, he did da 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 da. Ah, yes, that's that man.
Well, I would want to be remembered, want people to remember me for wanting to help people
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to be there and wanting to keep the family together as a close knit family. And because you hear so much today about, well, this one in the family is not talking to that one in the family, and they haven't talked for 20 years or 30 years, and they've been at it and they don't like what the other one is doing. But I want to be known for trying to bring this family together and keeping it together. That's what I would like to be known for.
I like it. I like it. And you have definitely been successful at that. So, I mean, keep it going. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Keep it going. Cause I mean, I know you've put different things together, like recipe book. Um, Somebody was telling me about some presentation you did too at one of the reunions. I wasn't there. It was some type of major PowerPoint. I don't know what it was, but
Uh,
somebody
I can't remember what that was, but
was
because my
saying,
memory is sort of slipping me as I get older here. But and I think one of the things, and we didn't talk about this, is doing research of the family, and I want to lay some foundations, and I think the reunions that we have and getting to know people, this interview process that you are doing is going to help our family to come together to know who we are. Uh, I've been doing research, trying to research who we are, where we
yes,
came from. And sometimes it gets frustrated because you get to the point where records weren't kept, you know, and
oh yeah.
and names weren't given. You know, it was and so got four boys or four girls or whatever. And from there, this person owned these people and owned those people. But and we got a name. So I would like to some way find out, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to do it, is where did this Pemberton name come from? How did we get this Pemberton name?
Hmm.
Because
That's
our
a good
ancestors
question.
didn't come from America. And my father always said that they came from the West Indies. And we came from the West Indies. His parents came from the West Indies and came
So
from
he's saying who came from the West Indies?
that his his parents, his would
So
have
like
been
Samuel and
Samuel's father, his
okay,
grandparents. His
gotcha,
grandparents
gotcha.
came from the West Indies. All right. Now I have gone to the island, and it says that the Pembertons came from the island of Kit in the West Indies. Now I have met Pembertons over there, okay, but there again, when they got there, that name Pemberton was given to them, okay. So
Ah,
we can trace that Pemberton back a long ways, but how do we get from from what it was before it ever got to be Pemberton, you know, that African name. And,
Yes. Yeah.
and that's the thing that sometimes I get really frustrated when I'm doing this research, because you get to a point you hit a blank wall and you can't
Mm-hmm.
get through it because you don't know what's on the other side of it. When you get on the other side of it, you don't get a name. You know, you don't get a name of what that African person was before he came here. You know, because there were no records of it. He just came here as a boy or as a girl. You know, he may have known his name, and he may have passed it down to the other Africans that came with him, but most of the time they didn't all come together and they didn't go together. They were
Right.
separated again, you know, and it's sometimes it's frustrating.
It is. It
To say the
is
least.
frustrating.
It's frustrated to say the least. And I hear so much in the news today that talk about critical race theory,
Mm.
not wanting to uh, to use critical race theory. Well, in my opinion, I think that's a mistake because you don't want to know what you did. You don't want to know what this country did. You don't want to know, but people should know how things got the way they are. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and and I look back, and I know this is probably a little bit off of what we were talking about, but when I
No,
get
this is on topic. I mean, it's
when, we, when I get on these subjects, sometimes I go out in left field,
on,
and and I go back to the thing where recently the Supreme Court passed this rule of on the voting rights bill, where they gutted the voting rights bill, and everybody's all upset about that. But if you look for the Supreme Court to say to be the savior, because at one time the Supreme Court said the blacks are only 3/5 of a person. Okay, so you can't look for the Supreme Court to determine what's right or wrong. They should be, because that's what their job is. Okay, but if you got these 9 people up there saying,
yeah, because who are the nine? Who are these
"Yeah,
nine
who
judges?
are the
I mean,
nine? Yeah,
yeah.
who are the nine?" And they're saying, "Well, blacks are only 3/5 of an American of a person." Okay, so but and then we say, all right, they're doing away with early voting. I wouldn't cry about doing away with early voting. Get out there and vote. Okay, if they tell me I can't vote until 2 days before the election, be out there 2 days before the election and vote. Don't sit at home and say, oh, they cut the time from a week to 2 days. Well, were you going a week early to start with? When were you going? You may not even been going to the poll to vote at all.
So they cutting
But
out something you wasn't even using.
yeah, they're cutting out something you weren't even using. I say beat them at their own game. If they say you only got 2 days of early voting, take advantage of those 2 days of early voting. And if enough of you show up on the 2 days of early voting, you can get the suckers out of office that are saying you can't early vote. Okay? You can vote them out of office. But there again, you got to want to do it. And you can't sit back and say, oh, they won't let me do this. They won't let me do that. I get so tired of hearing that. And sometimes I don't even like to watch, and I don't call it news, these talking heads on TV because they're just trying to make money on selling something on TV, get you to watch TV so they can sell a product and stir up the people. But
Yeah, create controversy. And
yeah,
man,
creating controversy. That's right.
we got a whole mix. But as you said, going back to the history piece, we have to know. We have to know where we came from, where did our name originate? It's
Hmm.
all of these questions you have. And if, to me, the more you say can be covered up or forgotten or not listed or not recorded, it's going to get even worse. You
That's
know,
right.
it's already now you can't locate the records. What records you going to be able to find in?
That's right. That's right. And the other thing they talk about, you know, today they talk about the police are killing our black men. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If we had family and if we had community, okay, got people looking, get our black men off the streets where the police are. Okay. They don't need to be on the street. Get them off the street. Get them into doing something productive. Okay.
Yeah.
And rather than stand up and say, well, yeah, I don't condone the police killing people. I'm one of the first to stand in line and say they shouldn't be killing people. Okay. But if, as long as you keep saying the police is killing our black men, killing our black men, get our black men off the street where the police are, get them into something productive. And we can do that. We can do that. We don't need government telling us how to do it. We can do it with community and we can
Mm-hmm.
do it with family. Okay?
Yeah, I see plenty of examples of that. You know, I see it, you know, there in Virginia. I see it here in Nashville, of people actually putting community things into practice, you know?
Yeah, right.
And it doesn't
But
take much. Just like, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. Like with my business, I have given like $150, or I don't even know how much I gave, but a scholarship to a massage student, because
hmm
I knew, like, okay, you can use this to buy your massage books or whatever, because it doesn't take much to help anybody at all. Oh, I think I lost you.